Hello and welcome to Hollywood at Home from Arizona Public Media. I'm Victoria Lucas. Tonight, we are pleased to present Cary Grant, Katharine Hepburn, and James Stewart in The Philadelphia Story, based on the popular Broadway play written by Philip Barry. This screwball romantic comedy from legendary director George Cukor takes a situation filled with opportunities for romance and comedy, mixes in plenty of champagne, and stirs it all around with some class conflict. Katharine Hepburn plays Tracy Lord, a wealthy socialite whose upcoming wedding to let's say a suitable bachelor is complicated by the sudden reappearance of her very charming former husband, and the uninvited arrival of a handsome reporter from a notorious tabloid, and watch out. The script barrels along delightfully with snappy, sparkling dialogue from beginning to end. And the opening sequence is one of the most famous in movie history. We instantly understand these characters and their relationship without a single line of dialogue. One movie historian, reflecting on the film's lasting popularity, wrote fondly that the definition of the word classy in the Oxford English Dictionary probably includes a screenshot from The Philadelphia Story. And if it doesn't, it should. But the movie almost didn't happen. You know, these days we think of Katharine Hepburn as firmly fixed in the Hollywood pantheon. But in 1938, she was publicly labeled box office poison by the Independent Theater Owners of America. She had suffered a 3-year string of box office failures, despite having won an Oscar for her performance in 1933's Morning Glory and being nominated for 1935's Alice Adams. But Hepburn was nothing if not determined and resourceful. Her friend, playwright Philip Barry, wrote The Philadelphia Story for the Broadway stage and tailored the role of Tracy Lord for Hepburn. She financed the play with her own money, and it became an instant hit. Hollywood suddenly and miraculously rediscovered its esteem for Hepburn, but now she was calling the shots. Her boyfriend at the time happened to be none other than Howard Hughes. He purchased the play's film rights for $30,000 as a gift for Hepburn, and that clever lady then turned around and sold them to Louis B. Mayer at MGM Studios for $250,000. She also demanded, and got, veto power over the cast, screenwriter, and director. So, getting down to work, Hepburn chose David Ogden Stewart, a friend of Barry's, and no relation to James Stewart, to adapt the play into a screenplay, which was not an easy task. The stage version of The Philadelphia Story was one of the best examples of the so-called comedy of remarriage, in which a couple divorce and then later get back together again. But the rigid motion picture production code during the years between 1930 and 1968 prohibited any depiction of extramarital affairs as being attractive or even permissible. So the screenwriter had to tiptoe carefully around the subject matter. With the screenplay adaptation underway, Hepburn next turned her attention to who should direct the film. She chose George Cukor, considered by many to be the preeminent director of women at the time. Hepburn had worked with him on 4 previous films, so she knew he had the wit, humanity, and sense of style that were perfect for The Philadelphia Story. She then approached Cary Grant for the role of her ex-husband, a chance to solidify his flair for playing wisecracking, sophisticated gentlemen. Grant accepted on two conditions. First, that he receive top billing, and second, that he be paid what was, at the time, the very generous salary of $130,000, which he got, and promptly donated the whole thing to the British War Relief Society. Finally, Hepburn surprised a number of people when she chose James Stewart to play the tabloid reporter, giving him a chance to shed his usual, shucks, boy-next-door persona and showcase his own flair for urbane comedy, along with a sexiness that had never been seen before. Well, not on film, anyway. But as good as the three stars are, the supporting cast shines too. Ruth Hussey almost steals the movie as the unflappable tabloid photographer. John Howard more than holds his own as the opportunistic fiancé. And young Virginia Wielder is a real hoot as the wisecracking little sister who sings a rousing rendition of Lydia the Tattooed Lady. And let's not forget the spectacular wardrobe. Hepburn was thrilled to work with MGM's head costume designer, Adrian, just one name, who was a legend in the industry. She later said, "He and I had the same sense of smell about what clothes should do and what they should say about a character." The film was shot over a period of 6 weeks in July and August 1940 at MGM's studio in Culver City. Cameraman Joseph Ruttenberg remembered, "Everyone had enormous fun on the movie. The days and nights were sweltering that summer, but nobody complained." The film came in 5 days under schedule, a rarity then as well as now. It was released to only a few theaters at first because the stage play was still touring the country. But when it went into general release in early 1941, it became an instant hit and broke the box office record at Radio City Music Hall. It was nominated for 6 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress for Hepburn, Best Supporting Actress for Ruth Hussey. And it won 2, Best Adapted Screenplay for David Ogden Stewart, and Best Actor for Jimmy Stewart, much to his own surprise. In keeping with his usual humble on-screen image, Stewart revealed that he had voted for Henry Fonda in Grapes of Wrath. And that was in contrast to the other Stewart, screenwriter David Ogden, who collected his statue and famously quipped, "I have no one to thank but myself." He later explained that what he meant was that the play was so perfect that adapting it for the screen was the easiest job he ever had. But the original quote has gone down in history. Hepburn later said, "Without the Philadelphia story and Phil, Barry, and Howard, my life would have been very different. I gave life to Tracy Lord, and she gave me back my career." Years later, when Cary Grant was asked about the film's enduring popularity, he replied, "When I go to the movies, I want to forget the dirty dishes in the sink. I want to forget my troubles. I want to laugh a little." Well, that's good advice. So now forget your own dirty dishes and get ready to laugh a lot with this amazing convergence of Hollywood Golden Age talents. From 1940, it's MGM's classic, The Philadelphia Story.